This review is dedicated to all you bird lovers out there, all those twitchers, especially my mate Scott. So this one's for you. This is Birdwatch Weekly, collaboration between Pressure Drop and Sureshot Brewing. It's a New England IPA. What's it going to be like? Keep on watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. We're having a break from the supermarket beers, just to sort of mop up some of those beers that I never drank in October, due to the fact that I had COVID for half of the month. But this one is one I'm surprised that I've left till last for some reason. But this is a Birdwatch Weekly New England IPA from Pressure Drop and Sureshot Brewery, which to me are, probably going to make it into they probably will make it into my top 10 for the end of the year breweries, but I'm not sure where they're going to appear. But certainly I've had some really good beers from them, so I'm looking forward to this. And this is obviously a bird watching theme. There's lots of birds on here. Looks pretty good. It's a nice looking can, sort of one that's going to jump out from you. And this is a New England IPA, and the hops in this are Cashmere, Citra and Sentinel. All the C's. A bit of a trio of hops that we don't usually see. Sentinel used to be in a lot more beers, certainly those more I think on the West Coast side, but this is a New England IPA. Citra, obviously, we know, and Cashmere is another new hop that seems to be sort of slowly implementing himself in more and more beers. But it says it's tropical, citrus and melon, so let's crack it open, get it in a glass and see what it's all about. I mean, Pressure Drop, they're pretty good, consistent sort of brewery. They make a lot of New England IPAs. I've had some very good stuff from them and some all right stuff from them. Consistency for me is where they're sort of lacking, really. But Sureshot, obviously they're new. I've only had about three from them, but they've all been pretty good, if not even great. So, beer in a glass, well, it's lovely and yellow, or it's actually more sort of orange coloured. We've got just under 2 fingers of sort of like frothy white head. I don't think that's going to stick around. It's not that compacted. You can see it's a bit like the old washing up liquid. But colour-wise, I think that looks pretty damn good, don't you? Yeah, lovely. Hazy. But then if you look at the bottom, it's a little bit clearer. So it's not as thick and hazy as you expect. This beer, by the way, ABV is 7.2%. So let's get the nose. It's quite bright, it's fresh, much more sort of citrus notes, orange as well, satsuma. And there is a sort of a whiff of something a little bit more, what I would call more green, more fresh, like the sort of melon. Maybe a bit of guava as well. Smells pretty good. Let's see what it tastes like. Cheers, everyone. It's very light, it's quite thin, which is a little bit disappointing. Lots of big hits of flavours. You've got orange, you've got passion fruit in there. There's bits of grapefruit, citrus, lemons and limes. But I would say in terms of the citrus, orange is definitely the sort of more dominant sort of flavour. Let's go in again. There is a sort of some sort of twang in there. I won't say it was pine or bitterness, but it's a twang of something, quite a strong flavour. And I'm always thinking in my mind, that's the Cashmere. The Cashmere brings a sort of, it does bring that sort of, it is like that, a bit of a honeydew melon, really. It's got that sort of smooth flavour to it. And although I've sometimes when I've talked about Cashmere, I've sort of not really been able to put my finger on it, but I think, yeah, honeydew melon is the flavour that you get with Cashmere, and it's quite strong and it comes in waves. So you get this big hit of orange, passion fruit, a little bit of mango in there, a little bit of those stone fruits, like a bit of apricot as well. But orange and passion fruit for me is the big dominant sort of flavour. And then you've got citrus in the background, and then you get this sort of wave of this different flavour that's very difficult to pinpoint, and it's difficult mainly because you're not really expecting it from this beer. But for me, I think that flavour that comes in is like melon. There is a sort of almost like an overtly strong hoppiness with that flavour as well. I don't know, because obviously, you know, when we talk about all these flavours, really, there's none, unless it says on the can that it has, but most of the time, and this one certainly, none of those fruits are in this beer. So you get this sort of, to describe it, you get this sort of flavour of melon, but then it's almost like this very hoppiness about it as well. So it's a little bit sort of like, you can feel, you can taste in there a little bit of that sort of orange and passion fruit, and then it develops into something a bit different, and a big wave of hoppiness. It doesn't really make sense, but it's a difficult one to describe. It's just this, you taste it, you think, oh yeah, that's a really hoppy beer. And when that flavour sort of starts to sort of develop as it sort of sits on the back of on the palate and the taste buds, and you're thinking, yeah, what is that? There's a few things there. Orange and passion fruit, melons coming in, and then citrus in the background. It's not bad. It's quite a strong flavour overall. So it's got this hoppiness about it. For me, the disappointment is there's not much carbonation, which is a good thing, but it's a little bit too thin in terms of its mouthfeel. I want something a little bit, and that, you know, you look at it there and you can see how thin that looks really compared with some of the other beers that we have. And so there's that little twang of that melon now is starting to develop into a slightly bit of pininess, a slightly bit of that grapefruit, and the grapefruit rinds coming in there as well. It's quite complex. There's lots going on with this beer. There's a lot to sort of get those taste buds going around, and it's not bad. I don't think it's gonna, you know, it's not blowing me away, and I think it's mainly because the mouth feels a little bit too thin. For all those strong flavours, you want something a little bit more medium bodied, or a bit more medium to sort of a more creamier body, just to sort of, that just envelopes that sort of flavour a bit better. When you get all those strong hoppy flavours, but it's a very sort of light beer, it doesn't quite work. It doesn't quite work on the palate. Your mind sort of says it's not quite right. But it's still a good beer, but not a great one. So, hope you've enjoyed this review. This is Birdwatch Weekly by Sureshot and Pressure Drop. It's a lovely looking can. I mean, you know, it's top marks for the can. Flavour, there's lots of it. There's lots going on, lots of complexity. As I said, the mouthfeel lets it down a little bit. But it's still a beer that probably is to be recommended. And if you've had it before, let me know. But again, what do you think? Pressure Drop. Obviously, you know, for me, okay, they're in North East London, they're based Tottenham Hale. You know, obviously the Tottenham connection, being a West Ham fan, you know, it gives me a little bit of negative vibes, but I've had some really good beers from them. So they do make a lot of New England beers, which is obviously New England style IPAs and New England pales, which obviously from my point of view is always a good thing because they're my favourite sort of style. And Sureshot, I mean, they've come from nowhere, Manchester based, and made some really good beers, nice themes, nice artwork. They're all ticking all the boxes, and I think that they could be my sort of brewery out of the blue for 2022. Really, yeah. I mean, I do like their beers, and I now seek every month when I'm buying new beers, I seek them out because I think they're really good. But I've waffled on enough. Scores coming up after this, and until the next one, you know what we're gonna do. Keep on rocking. Okay, the scores are in for Sureshot and Pressure Drop's Birdwatch Weekly. It's a New England IPA with this lovely bird-themed can artwork. We've got Cashmere, we've got Citra, we've got Sentinel. It's a good beer, but it's not really a great beer. But let's get those scores, shall we? Firstly, aroma. Appearance. Flavour. Value for money, and my overall experience. Totting those up, we get a total score of, it's recommended, but it's not a great beer. But let me know in the comments what you think if you've had this beer before. And until the next one, keep on rocking.